I can't believe it. We are on our last chapter of Guinea Dog. Final chapter in this book. Chapter 21 is called Every Kid Dreams of Getting Crutches. Do you remember why Rufus got crutches? Remember, he was at the river with his family and he was playing and he fell in and he broke his foot, right? And Fido had to save him. But as a kid who has had them, let me tell you, you don't want them. The first day I was released from my house was a Saturday, and I couldn't wait to take Fido for a walk. Mom had bought a ferret collar and a leash from a different pet store she found. She never did find Petopia, or whatever the store she bought Fido from was called. Because of this, and the doggish way Fido turned out to be, she tried to convince Dad and me that the place was some kind of enchanted, magical place where wishes were granted. Dad didn't believe her one little bit. Me? I believed her a little bit more than Dad did. Mom also bought a tiny cat tag and had Fido's name and our address and phone number inscribed on it. And she bought a couple of rawhide bones, some squeeze toys, and a ball launcher, and a couple of little pink rubber balls to launch. I thought she'd gone over the top, but Fido was so happy she peed herself. I attached the tag to the collar and put the collar around Fido's neck. I kept quiet around Fido about what sort of animal the tag was made for. She kept tugging at me on the walk, even though I was walking on crutches outside for the first time. She insisted on sniffing everything on both sides of the sidewalk, especially the stuff just out of reach. Will you give me a break? I pleaded. I'm on crutches here. She didn't care. I only fell 4 times. When we got home, I took her out back and unhooked her. She ran around in circles like a mad dog. I hobbled into the garage to my dad's workbench and opened his toolbox. Both the bench and the box were covered with dust and cobwebs. I found some boards and a saw and a sawhorse and carried them over to my work area, which wasn't easy with my crutches. But somehow I got them there. Fido came in and crawled up on the bench and watched me, which made it more fun. I measured and sawed and hammered, and then I heard a voice behind me. What are you up to, son? Sorry, Dad. Am I being too noisy? He shook his head. Need any help? Sure, I shrugged. He was actually a big help. It wasn't too long before what do you think he's making? The doghouse was built. We painted it with white with a red roof. Then we went out in the yard while it was drying. Dad dug some golf tees out of his pocket and tossed one. Fido raced after it. I think she's going to work out after all, Dad said. What is? I said. Working at home? Oh, how come? He shrugged. I just needed time to adjust, to change my way of thinking, to look at it differently. He looked at me and smiled. These help, he said, and pulled out some orange earplugs out of his pocket. I smiled. I bet. Good idea. Fido retrieved the tea and Dad threw another one. You happy with your pet? He asked. Yep, I said. I'm glad. I like her too. She keeps me company. It gets lonely in this big house all day by myself. I nodded. I hadn't thought about that. I'm not going to walk her, though. I know. Or clean up her messes. Check. And you need to keep her away from my shoes. You should keep your shoes away from her, I said. You're probably right about that. Fido came back again and Dad scooped her up. It was wild to watch him with her. He was petting her and cooing and rubbing his nose in her fur. Weird. But then he stopped all of a sudden and took off his glasses. He leaned in real close and squinted, then picked something out of her fur with his finger and his thumb. His face scrunched up and his eyes burned with fury. He shoved whatever he had pinched in his fingers in my face and bellowed, "Fleas!" Mom was sent back to the new pet store to buy flea killer. Meanwhile, Dad stomped around the house, vacuuming all the carpets and furniture and washing all the rugs and bedding. I was ordered to give Fido her first bath outside. When Mom returned, she came out to help. We can only give her just a teeny bit of this stuff, she said. It's made for CATS. You know what that spells? Cats. Which way more. I nodded, and I appreciated her spelling out the C word. Fido was freaked out enough as it was. Dad's pretty mad, huh? I asked. Oh, I don't know. I think he likes housework. He sees the fleas as invaders, and he's protecting his home. Big hero, she laughed. Really? I don't think he likes housework. You're probably right, she said. We bathed Fido in a soup pot and in the backyard. She looked even more rat-like when she was wet. But even dogs look weird when they're soaked to the skin. What was more upsetting was how miserable she looked. She was shivering like crazy, and she sure was giving me the stink eye. Time to get her out of there, Mom said, and lifted her out onto the towel we had ready. I bundled her up and held her to my chest to warm her. She was trembling like a leaf. Her teeth were chattering. Mom's bottom lip stuck out. Her chin quivered and her eyes got all moist. I knew what that meant. Don't, Mom. I can't help it, she said. It's just so sweet. Stop, Mom. The two of you, she went on. Mom, I mean it. Okay, sorry. She wiped her wet nose on her sleeve. I shook my head. How hopeless was this woman? She brought me home a guinea pig instead of a dog. She said it would be quiet and it wouldn't chew things up and it would bathe itself. She said that it wouldn't get fleas. Ha! She was so wrong. Wrong about everything. Well, not about one thing, I guess. She said she knew I'd love Fido. So I tossed her a bone. Thanks, Mom, I said, for Fido. Oh, you're welcome, sunshine, she said, and then she busted out bawling. I tell you, when it comes to Mom, sometimes it's just best to keep your thanks to yourself. After Fido was dry and happy, I went into the garage and finished the last detail on her doghouse. No doghouse is complete without the name painted in an arc over the door, right? So I did that. Then I carried the house outside under my arm. Fido got so excited she jumped up and down until she knocked it out of my hands. I tried to catch it and got tangled up in my crutches and fell on the ground. It was lying on its side, so I tipped it upright. Fido ran in and out, and in and out, and in and out, like she knew exactly what it was and who it was for. Then she walked around it a few times and marked it, if you know what I mean. When she was done with that, she went inside, turned around, and plopped down. All that was outside was her head resting on her paws. She looked so happy, which made me happy, crippled and sprawled out on the grass with my crutches, but happy. I remembered then that I had put a treat in my pocket for her after the bath. So I dug it out. It was a rawhide bone from the new pet shop. When Fido saw it, she sprang from her house, poised for action, her nose high, her butt wagging. I tossed the bone up over her head. She leaped, caught it in midair, and came down with it. Then she ran over to me. Good girl, I said, scratching her neck. Atta girl. What a girl. That's my girl. She soaked up the praise a while, then darted off to some bushes, where she dug a hole, dropped in the bone, and buried it. What a dog. And that is the end of our guinea dog story. I hope you liked it. If you want to read another guinea dog story, there is a Guinea Dog 2, and I think there's also a Guinea Dog 3 chapter book. I'll see you guys next time with a new book to read. Bye, second graders.